This lesson is about inserting objects and shapes and organizing them, working with them. So from the Insert tab, you can go to Shapes, and you have a huge number of shapes that you can choose from. So I'm just going to choose this rounded rectangle to start. Now when you're drawing in an object or you're trying to build something, I would recommend that you start with whatever's going to be in the background first. So just for the sake of this lesson, I'm going to pretend to draw. I'm going to draw a phone. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go back to the Insert tab here and go back to Shapes, and I'm going to want the handset, I guess, to be right here, and then over top of that, I could put the little round part. Now, if you want a perfect circle or a perfect square, if you put your control key down while you're dragging it in, sorry, that's your shift key, then you get a perfectly proportional circle or square. And rather than try to reproduce a shape, it's a lot easier just to copy and paste that same shape. So if you wanted this part down here. Now, as you see right now, they're not lining up. They're not perfectly centered to one another. So once you've inserted some objects, you have the ability to select several by clicking on one and putting your shift key down and then clicking on whatever other shapes you want to select. So now I have 3 of them selected. Now with them selected, I'm looking for align, so that's on my home tab here, and I'm going to arrange, and here I'm looking to align them center. So now all 3 of those shapes are centered to one another. So it kind of sort of looks like a handset. Now, when you're ready for the buttons of your phone, it's back to Insert, and I would choose a shape. So let's choose just a regular square for that. I'm going to need 12 of those. Now, again, rather than try to reproduce this 12 times, the best bet is just to copy and paste. So I'm going to copy and paste that 11 times. Now, I manually moved these, and it did a decent job because there's an invisible grid line in the back. There's grid lines, and you can move them by eye, and they automatically snap to another line, and you're able to align them decently by eye. But I didn't do it perfectly because I want to teach this next lesson. So I want these to be perfectly aligned to one another, left to right, and then I'm going to, of course, want all of these lines to be aligned as well. So we're going to do that lesson right now. First, in order to select all 4 of these, I'm just clicking with my shift key down, and I'm able to select all of those. Now, I can tell that they're probably already aligned left to right, but we're just going to go to arrange, and I'm going to go align, and then let's say left. And they didn't move, so they already were. Now I'm going to, again, I'm going to select these, and because align left is the last thing I did, I would probably hit my F4 button right now, which means do what I just did, and that was align left. So now it aligned these 4 left, and then I'm going to go F4 again. So now they're all aligned to one another. Now I need to do the same thing with the top, but I need to align them top. F4 won't help me now. I have to go back to arrange, align, and top. And now I can select these 3 and F4, and these 3 and F4, and these 3 and F4. The next thing I need to do is distribute these things evenly. The gap between these 2 is not the same as the gap between these 2. So once again, I'm selecting these 3 buttons. I'm going back to arrange, but this time I'm looking for distribute, and it's left to right, so it's horizontally. So now it changed the gap between those. And again, my F4 key, which means just redo or repeat, sorry, what I just did. So it's changing that. And arrange, align, and distribute there. And I inadvertently shifted these over when I was distributing earlier, so I need to now realign these. Oop, had too many things selected. And align left once again. Now I also need to distribute these vertically now. So I've got these selected. So once again, it's align, and now I'm distributing vertically. So in order to make this phone perfect, you had to align all of the lines, and then you had to distribute them. And now these buttons are perfectly aligned on my phone. Next, what we can do to these objects is you can add text to any object that you insert. So I've right-clicked, and now I should be able to add text to any one of these objects. Now, whereas it used to say add text, it now simply says edit text. So this new version of PowerPoint says edit text, and you get an insertion point in there, and now I can type the number 1. And the same thing here, I can edit text and type number 2, and so on. Now, when you're drawing something like this, you may choose to group several objects so that they become one object. The first step is, of course, to select the objects you wish to group. Now here I'm using my Shift key in order to select several things. And again, I'm going to arrange, and then I'm saying to group. Now by doing that, this is now one object. So if I decided I wanted to move it, I could move it because it's now one object. I could, if I didn't like what was going on with it, I could now ungroup it if I'd like and bring it back to the way it was. I'm going to choose now that these buttons are perfect and they're exactly where I want, I'm going to choose to group them as well. Now because there's 12 of them, I'm going to show you another way that you can group them rather than using Shift and clicking on every little object. The more complex your design or your creation becomes, the tougher it is to select everything. So now I'm going to choose this select objects, and now I'm going to click and drag a box around the objects. And by doing that, it's selected each one of the objects. So that's another way of selecting several things at a time. Now, I'm going to click off. You'll notice I didn't start inside my phone, because if I start here, it thinks that I'm trying to move my phone, right? So what I needed to do is I needed to turn on this select objects, and then I have to start my clicking out here. And when you're clicking and dragging, make sure that you have every one of your objects in its entirety, because if you only get part of these boxes, they won't be included. You have to make sure you get all of those. So now I've got all of those boxes. It won't select the phone because I don't have the entire background, the base of the phone. So when I let go, it's selected all of those, and then you can right click. Oh, right click didn't work. So I'm going to have to start over. You used to be able to right click on that and say group. So now I'm going to have to go to arrange and group. And now that is one object. So if I want to move that object, I can move that object, which used to be many buttons, but now it's just one object. So those are the several features that you have available to you with shapes. Now, I'm going to ungroup this. And as we've learned with other things, when you're working on a shape, you can access your drawing tools format bar. You have all kinds of different fills, outlines, shape effects, shape styles that we've come to know, all right, through other lessons. So you have, of course, all of those things available to you. Your ability to size a shape. You can make them wider with your sizing node. You can make them taller with your sizing node. You can make the size bigger in several different ways. So these, of course, are your sizing nodes. And it's not appropriate now, but if you wanted to, you can also rotate an object this way. This is called free rotate, allowing you to stop anywhere. If you put your control key, your shift key down while you're rotating, it rotates 15 degrees at a time. And that would allow you to get 90 degrees if that's what you wanted. And then you'd be able to take your shapes. Okay, I'm afraid this isn't going to fit. I would have to resize my phone in a couple of different ways here in order to make that work. So I just want to teach you the rotate there which is another feature you have available to you. Now I'm going to regroup these three objects so that I can move them around as one. So those are the main features when you're inserting objects. Not just in PowerPoint, but all of these features are available in Word as well.